again, Maksim, and welcome back to another video. So today we're going to be looking at a tier list of mine, or rather my tier list, for the countries of AdizzPro's WICSO series. Now, what is AdizzPro's WICSO series? Well, AdizzPro's WICSO series, or What If Civilization Started Over series, is a series focusing on a timeline where, well, humanity is reset and entirely new countries, religions, cultures, etc. are are created. There are obviously some parallels to our world, to our world's countries, and wait, hang on, I may have forgotten one nation. Okay, guys, I'm back. I just added in Rome. Sorry for the little sorry for the little pause there, but basically, as I was saying, WICSO, or What If Civilization Started Over, is a series by AdizzPro where civilization starts over and entirely new countries, wars, etc. are formed. The lore for this series is honestly really cool, so you should go ahead and check him out. I will leave a link to his channel in the description. With all that being said, let's get started. And to all of you WICSO fans out there, what's going on? So first off, we have Ukraine. I honestly like Ukraine, or Crimea rather. I honestly like Crimea. This was they were a pretty cool team, and they're actually kind of one of my favorites, so starting it off, we're gonna put them in the S tier. Next up, we have Catalonia, a major player in all three world wars. This thing was another one of my personal favorites, and I actually, I actually really like Catalonia, so A tier. Next up, we have France. I know I'm going out of order. Actually, hang on. Next up, we have Andalusia / the Dark Scion team in Iberia. Now, this one was another one of my personal favorites, and even though they owned a pretty cool looking large colonial empire. However, though they didn't really do anything, so I'm gonna have to put them in A tier. Next up, we have WICSO France. Now, France is another one of my favorite countries. They were a major player in both world wars. I mean, in all three world wars, actually. Yeah, there's 3 world wars in WICSO. So, yeah, by the way, spoilers ahead. I'm sorry if I didn't say that earlier, or make that clear, but yeah. Because of, because of the major role France plays in this series, I'm gonna have to put them in E tier. Next up, we have Galicia. This was another one of my favorite countries. However, though, I don't really like this country at the same time. I've always seen it as a bit of an aggressor, so yeah, there may be some bias here. I don't know. I'll just put him in the I guess I'll just put him in the B tier. Honestly, they're solid, but I don't think they're a little bit aggressive, and I don't like them. Next up, we have the Netherlands, one of my personal favorite countries. My headcanons for this country are pretty cool. They were a democratic superpower, and they treated their colonies fairly. At least until that's until they withdrew all their colonies and essentially abandoned them during World War II. Something that their former colonies don't really hate, or rather, some of their former colonies really understand. It's something that their former colonies really understand. And considering this is one of my most favorite countries, we're putting him in the S tier. Next up, we have Siberia, another one of my favorite countries. This country has a really interesting history. It was a federal union of several of around like 2 Siberian countries, and yeah, from there they basically survived despite losing a lot of land. So I'm gonna have to put them in the S tier. I wouldn't put them behind Crimea, but they're one of my top 3. Actually, but I wouldn't put them behind Crimea, but they are one of my favorites. Next up, we have the Farmers Union, a very solid country. Or this thing has played a major role in the world of WICSO, so I'm gonna put them in the A tier. Rather, this isn't actually the Farmers Union. This is actually the Western Farmers Union, or actually no, the Eastern Farmers Union. Because according to AdizzPro, this is not the original Farmers Union, even though it is the successor state to the Farmers Union. All right, next up we have Norway. This, for some reason, I don't really like Norway because of the whole Sweden thing and stuff. Yeah, they completely annexed Sweden in this timeline. So yeah, I don't really like Norway, but at the same time, I kind of do. So I'll put him in the B tier because although I will put them in front of the Iberian country because I honestly kind of hate the Iberian country a little bit more in this situation. Next up, we have no, it's not actually hate. It's just I dislike them a little bit more than I dislike Galicia a little bit more than Norway. All right, next up we have Somalia. Not one of my personal favorites, but this country is really, really evil and really significant and interesting. So I'm sorry, but I'm gonna have to put it in the. Actually, no, I'll put it in the B tier, honestly, because these guys are cool, but they're not. But they're the worst. They're fascists, by the way. So yeah. Next up, we have Brazil. For some reason, I really dislike this name. I don't really dislike Brazil, but for some reason, I don't really like them as much, even though I think they have a very interesting history. And that does kind of make them better than Somalia and also Galicia, I'd say. So I'll put them over here. All right, next up, we have Hibernia, one of my personal favorite countries again. This country is the most democratic and most liberal. And fun fact, I believe this country legalized like gay marriage in like the 1100s. Yeah, that's how liberal we're talking here. So they're a little utopia. I'm gonna have to put them in front of Crimea though, because yeah. All right, next up we have the West African Union, another one of my favorite countries. This one has a really interesting history and really cool borders. They also own a bunch of nukes, so yeah, I really like this country, and I kind of like it more than the Farmers Union, so I'll put them over there. Alright, next up we have WICSO America. This is another one of my favorite countries. I think it's a really cool country. So you know what? I'm gonna go ahead and I'd say it's pretty cool. I'll put it in front of the Farmers Union. Yeah, I'm screwing over the Farmers Union here, but do note they are one of my favorites. Alright, next up we have Perso India. This one was a bit of a goat because this thing owned the largest colonial empire in WICSO history. However, though, they were pretty immoral because they were quite oppressive, so yeah. I mean, they literally committed a genocide in their Arabian colonies. All right, next up we have Russia, another one of my favorite countries. This one was one of my personal favorites. I honestly wanted them to win World War III in WICSO, so I'm gonna have to put them here. Although I will put them behind Siberia because they were pretty dictatorial. All right, next up we have the Old Empire, a classic goat. This one was one of my favorites, if not my personal favorite. However, though, I really like them, but I do like Russia more. But I kind of like Russia a bit more, so, yeah. Actually, no, I kind of wanted them to win, so, I guess I'll put them next to each other. Although, I do like the, Old Empire. They have a very cool history. Alright, next up, we have India. Now, India is a very cool country. They are a pretty democratic country that broke away from the Perso-Indian Lime team. I, honestly would put them in S tier, if it were not for the fact that they allowed this thing to form. But nonetheless, I'll put them in the S tier. I'll put them I'd say yeah, I'd put them behind Russia and the old empire. All right, next up we have Vietnam slash real South China. Yeah, I mean there is a fake South China here if you've noticed. This one is another one of my favorite countries. And I really like them because they are very resilient and I think they have a very cool history. So I'm gonna put him here. Maybe I don't like them as much as Perso India, but I still like them. So yeah. All right. Next up, we have China. This is one of the more major democratic powers, and I really like them. Even though they did colonize the Philippines in this timeline, they treated them fairly, though. Don't worry, to all my Filipino viewers. So I'm gonna put them in front of South China, which is ironic because these are like the two most they have a huge animosity against each other. Alright, next up we have Caspia, another one of my favorite nations. However, though, just like Somalia, they are pretty immoral, but I think they're a pretty cool country. But being fascist, I don't think they deserve to be in the A spot, so I'll, actually no, I'd actually put them in the A spot because I don't think their crimes are as worse as, Somalia. Or, I mean, they are doing horrible things right now to the scale of Somalia, but they haven't done it in, like, the span of a few years. They're just getting started, so for me, that still qualifies them getting the A tier. Alright, next up, we have South Africa. Now, South Africa here is a pretty cool and pretty recent hero. They're currently fighting against the West African. Actually, no, they're currently fighting against Somalia for economic and military influence, and they're a pretty democratic country. In fact, they're an anti fascist country. So, for that, they're kind of one of my favorites, so I'll have to put them on top. Right in front of India because they're actually doing a little bit more. Elsewhere, we have terrorist Mexico. Now, I honestly like terrorist Mexico they're a pretty good country, but in the beginning they did horrible things. I mean, they are a terrorist group. So I'd say that I would probably, I'd say I'd probably put them in B tier because they are terrorists and terrorists are not nice. All right, next up we have Tibet, another one of my favorite countries. I really like this one. They're a pretty democratic country, and I honestly think they're better than South China. So, yeah, I'll put them in front. Actually, no, I kind of like South China more, but I'll put them in front of Caspia. All right, next up we have the red team. This one is a goat. They were one of the original they were one of the first 5 original countries in the world, and honestly, they have a very cool history. I honestly think they're a bit better than the old empire, so yeah. All right, next up we have fake South China. I personally kind of like this country, but at the same time I don't really like it because because actually, no, I kind of like this country, but I don't really like it because they didn't unite with North China. Plus, they're also like plus I also thought that they should have been part of Vietnam, so I'll put them over here. Still, Caspia will be put in last place in A tier because yeah. And now we have Hejaz. This was one of the founding nations of Mesopotamia, and I honestly think they're up there. Um, they're up there because they have an interesting history. Let's just say that. So I would say I'd probably put them in front of, again, maybe in front of this guy. Alright, next up, we have Arabia. Now, this is another goat. This was one of the old countries of World War, of WICSO, and I'd honestly put them in front of the old empire, so, yeah. And actually, no, never mind. I'll put them in front of me. And actually, now that I think about it, let's go ahead and, put Siberia over here. I mean, they are one of my favorites, but these guys are, like, my personal favorite. Yeah. Blue team. No, I put the gold team there, and then I'll put Siberia here. Alright, there you go. And lastly, which is not actually lastly, we have Rome. This is one of the top nations of the series, one of the many favorites. I personally don't like them. I mean, actually, no, I do like them. They have a pretty good, they have a pretty legendary history. So, and I'd say they're actually better than the old empire, so I'll put them in front of the old empire. Even though we have the whole, Rome versus Dutch team debate. And actually, now that I think about it, let me go ahead and get a few more countries, so I'll be back once that is. Alright guys, we're back, and I'm deciding that I'm gonna end this video here, because I actually don't want to overstretch the recording for too long. I mean, I did that with my most recent WICSO, with my most recent episode of my own WICSO series. By the way, go ahead and watch it, I really need the support. Not for money, but just because I spent like 2 hours to, just to, get that video uploaded. So if you could, please support my WICSO series with at least a view, so I know that my work was actually worth it. But with all that being said, thank you for watching this relatively short video, which I'm actually pleased it's a short video because I don't really like my long form videos. My long videos are they take a heck of a while to upload, and they actually messed up my internet at one point. So as it's currently 3 a.m. right now, but I may upload this in like 5, so I can keep commenting. Yeah, for some reason it glitched my internet connection glitched to the point where I couldn't comment anymore. But don't worry, the glitch has been fixed. But with all that being said, thank you for watching this relatively short video. And once again, subscribe to the channel if you want. Like this video and share it or comment below. I'm not asking you to do it. I'm just telling you that you can do it. And and I don't even want like all the publicity and the fame that I'm currently getting, because I mean, I do like it. I really appreciate your guys' support of my channel, but I don't know if I really want to chase this as a full-time career. Not as a career, but as a full-time hobby. It is a hobby, but I don't know if I can do it all the time. So, with all that being said, thank you for watching this video, and remember, if you'd like or dislike this video, I'll know. I can tell by how many views this thing will get in the span of a few days. But with all that being said, thank you for watching this tier list and this relatively short video, and I'll see you guys next time.